Episode number 39. The deputy director seemed very good at appropriating everything that Kay was now forced to give up. But was Kay not giving up more than he absolutely had to? By running off to some unknown painter, with, as he had to admit, very little hope of a vague benefit, his renown was suffering damage that could not be repaired. It would probably be much better to take off his winter coat again and, at the very least, try to win back the two gentlemen, who were certainly still waiting in the next room. If Kay had not then glimpsed the deputy director in his office, looking for something from his bookshelves as if they were his own, he would probably even have made the attempt. As Kay, somewhat agitated, approached the door, the deputy director called out, "Oh, you've still not left." He turned his face toward him, its deep folds seemed to show strength rather than age, and immediately began, once more to search. "I'm looking for a copy of the contract," he said, "which this gentleman insists you must have. Could you help me look for it, do you think?" Kay made a step forward, but the deputy director said, "Thank you, I've already found it." And with a big package of papers, which certainly must have included more documents than just the copy of the contract, he turned and went back into his own office. "I can't deal with him right now," Kay said to himself. "But, once my personal difficulties have been settled, then he'll certainly be the first to get the effect of it, and he certainly won't like it." Slightly calmed by these thoughts, Kay gave the servitor, who had already long been holding the door to the corridor open for him, the task of telling the director, when he was able, that Kay was going out of the bank on a business matter. As he left the bank he felt almost happy at the thought of being able to devote more of himself to his own business for a while. He went straight to the painter, who lived in an outlying part of town, which was very near to the court offices, although this area was even poor. The houses were darker, the streets were full of dirt that slowly blew about over the half-melted snow. In the great gateway to the building, where the painter lived, only one of the two doors was open. A hole had been broken open in the wall by the other door, and as Kay approached it, a repulsive, yellow, steaming liquid shot out, causing some rats to scurry away into the nearby canal. Down by the staircase there was a small child lying on its belly crying, but it could hardly be heard, because of the noise from a metal workshop on the other side of the entrance hall, drowning out any other sound. The door to the workshop was open. 3 workers stood in a circle around some piece of work that they were beating with hammers. A large tin plate hung on the wall, casting a pale light that pushed its way in between 2 of the workers, lighting up their faces and their work aprons. Kay did no more than glance at any of these things. He wanted to get things over with here as soon as possible, to exchange just a few words to find out how things stood with the painter, and go straight back to the bank. Even if he had just some time success here, it would still have a good effect on his work at the bank for that day. On the 3rd floor he had to slow down his pace. He was quite out of breath. The steps, just like the height of each floor, were much higher than they needed to, and he'd been told that the painter lived right up in the attic. There was also quite oppressive. There was no proper stairwell, and the narrow steps were closed in by walls on both sides with no more than a small, high window here and there. Just as Kay paused for a while, some young girls ran out of one of the flats, and rushed higher up the stairs, laughing. Kay followed them slowly, caught up with one of the girls, who had stumbled, and been left behind by the others, and asked her as they went up side by side, "Is there a painter, Tito, who lives here?" The girl, hardly 13 years old, and somewhat hunchbacked, jabbed him with her elbow, and looked at him sideways. Her youth, and her bodily defects had done nothing to stop her being already quite depraved. She did not smile once, but looked at Kay earnestly, with sharp, acquisitive eyes. Kay pretended not to notice her behavior, and asked, "Do you know Tito, the painter?" She nodded, and asked in reply, "What do you want to see him for?" Kay thought it would be to his advantage quickly to find out something more about Tito. "I want to have him paint my portrait," he said. "Paint your portrait?" she asked, opening her mouth too wide, and lightly hitting Kay with her hand as if he had said something extraordinarily surprising or clumsy. With both hands she lifted her skirt, which was already very short, and, as fast as she could, she ran off after the other girls, whose indistinct shouts lost themselves in the heights. At the next turn of the stairs, however, Kay encountered all the girls once more. The hunchbacked girl had clearly told them about K's intentions, and they were waiting for him. They stood on both sides of the stairs, pressing themselves against the wall so that Kay could get through between them, and smoothed their aprons down with their hands. All their faces, even in this guard of honor, showed a mixture of childishness and depravity. Up at the head of the line of girls, who now, laughing, began to close in around Kay, was the hunchback, who had taken on the role of leader. It was thanks to her that Kay found the right direction without delay. He would have continued up the stairs straight in front of him, but she showed him that to reach Tito he would need to turn off to one side. The steps that led up to the painter were especially narrow, very long without turning. The whole length could be seen in one glance, and, at the top, at Tito's closed door, it came to its end. This door was much better illuminated than the rest of the stairway by the light from a small skylight set obliquely above it. It had been put together from unpainted planks of wood, and the name, Tito, was painted on it in broad, red brush strokes. Kay was no more than halfway up the steps, accompanied by his retinue of girls, when, clearly the result of the noise of all those footsteps, the door opened slightly, and in the crack a man, who seemed to dressed in just his nightshirt appeared. "Oh!" he cried, when he saw the approaching crowd, and vanished. The hunchbacked girl clapped her hands in glee, and the other girls crowded in behind Kay to push him faster forward.